You're listening to the Trance Messages from Spirit podcast. Hi, I'm Linda Pynaker. I'm a trance medium and author. Today I will talk about my experiences in developing my trance mediumship abilities, and I'll provide tips to help you to develop yours. I'll share a message I received through trance from Bashura, one of my trance guides, and also from a spirit who met with me for the first time for the purpose of sharing a message for this podcast. Trance mediumship involves connecting through trance with spirits and allow them to use your vocal cords to speak. You may also allow them to influence your facial expressions and your body movement, but similar to hypnosis, they can't make you say or do anything against your will. For several years, I wanted to learn trance mediumship, but I didn't know how. I'd never met anybody who was a trance medium, and I'd only seen a person in trance once. In any of the books I read, they didn't tell you how to do it. And some of the books made it look like people just slipped into trance as soon as they were nice and relaxed. And one of them even wrote that she would unintentionally slip into trance. And I sort of thought that I should be so lucky because it just wasn't happening for me. In 2016, one of my friends went to a mediumship class, and she offered to help me go into trance. So she told me to relax and set the intention to go into trance. And so she had me say, I intend to go into trance. And then she said, just ask for an individual spirit or a collective to come in. She also suggested I talk about what I was seeing or feeling and hearing until I just felt like I couldn't talk anymore, and then just let myself go into trance. And so I followed exactly what she said, and I immediately went into trance. And there I was, and I do remember this part. I was in the chair, and my head just fell forward, so I had a really sore neck after I was all done. But when I came out of trance, I didn't remember what had happened. And she told me I'd channeled a soft-spoken woman, a male, and a third of an unknown gender. And she said one of the spirits had an Irish accent. I didn't remember that at all. But as she talked about what I shared through trance, some of it sounded familiar. And I did recall that one of the spirits was very bossy, and she said that was one of her spirit guides. She figured it was him anyway, because he was always bossy. She'd placed a written question under my chair, but she didn't let me read it. And after our session, she told me some of the things I said that answered her question. And that was really validating to hear that I had answered her question through trance. Like, who knew, right? I really didn't know anything about trance at all. I mean, a few years before that, a trance medium told my twin sister, Karen, that one of the ways to get into trance was to meditate and to talk out loud while you're meditating, and to make sure that you record it so you could listen to it afterwards. So I tried that once, but it didn't work for me, and it didn't occur to me to try it more than once. And I'd completely forgotten about it until I started writing a book about trance mediumship. And then for some reason that came to me, and I thought, oh gosh, if only I'd remembered that. But I was so excited when I did go into trance. And it took me only a few minutes, and I just never dreamed it would happen so easily. In the early 2000s, I was meditating, and I saw a vision of thousands of people coming in and out of arena in fast motion. And I said to my spirit guides, I said, they came to listen to me, didn't they? And they said, yes. So that gave me an idea of just how important it would be for me to become very well known and become very adept at connecting with people's loved ones in spirit, because apparently that's what I was doing in that arena. So I just knew that I had to learn trance mediumship. I really felt like it was part of that. So my friend and I continued to get together and share trance messages with each other. And I began practicing by myself on almost a daily basis. And if I missed a day, sometimes I'd practice twice the next day. And during the process, we received several trance messages about how life-changing it would be for me once I became adept at connecting with spirits through trance. So that was really exciting, but it was also very overwhelming. And as I realized that, I had to become proficient at trance, and that was like my next hurdle. to moving forward. And I just felt enormous pressure to make that happen. And that also led to fear, which made it difficult for me to relax enough to go into trance. So some of the practice sessions were pretty frustrating. 10 days after I first went into trance, I saw a rufous hummingbird and an anise hummingbird, and they're both trying to drink from the same hummingbird feeder. And it's actually unusual for different types of hummingbirds to share a feeder. They chased each other twice, and then they finally sat together on the feeder, and they actually tried to drink from the same port. And I heard the intuitive message, trust and let yourself join with your spirit guides. So my spirit guides were really trying to help me. One night when I went to bed, I received an intuitive message to bring my tape recorder. And I didn't know what it was for, so I just left the tape recorder turned off on the bedstand beside my bed. And I woke up in the middle of the night and started speaking in a non-English language. I guess in my drowsy state, I was allowing a female spirit to use my vocal cords to speak. And I turned on the recorder and just continued speaking in her language. And I was excited because I knew I had to be in trance, or how else was I speaking this language that I didn't know? And when I played the recording later for one of my friends, she said it was light language, something I had never heard of. And apparently light language involves channeling spirits from ancient civilizations to share healing. And I've since channeled light language with many spirits. And, people have reported how healing it was for them. And some of my friends who are mediums have said that they can actually see the colored energy in the room, and it's just very calming and it feels lovely. So that really encouraged me to keep doing the light language, even though I have to tell you that sometimes it just sounds like gibberish. And in the beginning, I didn't know what the purpose was. I just knew it was exciting that I could do it because I knew I was in trance when I was. One of the friends that I was practicing trance with all the time, one of her trance guides told me that I had a new guide that was assigned to me for the purpose of working in trance states. And that, like him, this guide was from another galaxy. And he also spoke about what I'd be doing to help others. One of the times I was practicing trance, I saw lots of orange energy. Like I quite often see colored energy in my mind when, when my eyes are closed or when they're open. And on my last attempt, the orange energy was just huge. And I just felt the energy embrace me. And later that male spirit told me that the energy was only representation. And intuitively, I got that his name was Bashura. And Bashura is my main trance guide. And he's the one that's helping me write that book and help me. He told me all kinds of things to help me develop my trance abilities, which I'm going to share with you. The problem I had with Bashura is that he sounded so much like me that it took me a while to become confident that I was channeling him and that I was in trance. Because a lot of the other spirits, they had like accents or a very deep voice or a really high voice, or they'd like to sing, and so that, when that happened, I always knew I was in trance. But with Bashura, he sounded so much like me that I just couldn't tell for sure that I was channeling him. So he deepened his voice on 2 occasions so that I'd realize I was channeling him, and then told me that he'd resume sounding like me now that I knew that I was able to channel him through trance. Well, one day I was listening to a guided meditation, and when it was time for a spirit guide to walk down the steps, and usually my master guide, Shabimaha, would walk down the steps and then take my hand. But instead, I saw this orange energy sort of float down the stairs. And I knew it was Bashura because he's the one that, represents himself with this orange energy. I previously thought that going into trance would enable me to get out of my own way. But I discovered it was difficult to avoid letting my own thoughts interfere while I was trying to get into trance. It's just not as easy as it seems. And my friend and I, we talked about how often it felt like we were making up the messages we were channeling through trance. A lot of the spirits will bring in the same messages over and over again. And I finally said to my spirit guide, I said, stop bringing me the same messages over and over again, because I'm getting so that I actually have them memorized, because I would always record them and I'd type up transcripts to see how well I'd done. And I said, it's just making me doubt myself. So then they started bringing me more different messages. And Bashura shared some messages with me through trance to help me become more able to connect with spirits. Once, when I was so relaxed, I just felt like falling asleep. He told me, he said, "This is how relaxed you need to be to go into trance." Because I remember I was thinking to myself, gee, I need a nap. And all of a sudden he says to me, "You don't need a nap. This is how relaxed you need to feel in order to go into trance." And I found that really helpful. One of the times I connected with Bashura, he shared valuable information to help me to connect with him. The following is a recording of the message he shared with me.
So imagine yourself in my space. Just be there so I can join with you. Like Dory in Finding Nemo, you can join with me too. I'm really only right here. See that speck? Be there. Decide about meeting me. Not halfway, all the way. Got to be there. Be there. Be me.
The other thing he told me to do is open my eyes during trance. He said that that would make it much more meaningful for the people that I was meeting with. And I found that that wasn't too hard to do. I mean, sometimes it's a little more distracting because, there's movement around you. But I'm more than able to do it now. It just took a bit of practice. And one evening, this is another thing that was helpful for me. One evening, I was in my mediumship circle, and I was saying a grounding and running energy ritual, which makes you very peaceful and relaxed. And I noticed I had a really hard time not going into trance. And so that led me to believe that I could use that ritual to help me to relax enough. And that worked really well for me. I don't need to do it anymore unless, say, I've really got something on my mind or I'm upset about something and it's harder for me to relax. But typically, it's not an issue anymore. When you get practice, it just seems to happen much easier. And of course, keep in mind that a lot of people who come to my classes and that, they just go right into trance. And I think part of that is that they don't have the fear that I have about how much my life is going to change. When I was first learning, I was thinking about how it's going to change my life once I became really well known. And I knew that wasn't going to happen until I became very good at doing trance. So one of the things I wanted to suggest to you is that if you're going to try it, make sure that you always record your messages. That's the primary way to build confidence. There was many a time that I practiced and I thought, oh, that was a waste of time, And then, of course, I was transcribing everything I was getting because I was writing this book about helping people learn how to connect through trance. And when I would listen to those messages and retype and type them up so that I could read them, I would just be flabbergasted sometimes. I could hardly believe. I think I never remembered any of this happening, and some of the messages were so detailed and profound. It was just really impressive. It really helped to build my confidence. So I would, really suggest you do that. And if you do record it and you end up having all kinds of quiet periods, just hang in there because you can have a quiet period and then all of a sudden, boom, you're connected through trance and someone's using your vocal cords to speak. And one thing I'll tell you about trance sessions is the memories are usually really inaccurate. There's so many blanks and so much is missing. So recording is definitely the best way to build confidence. And the other thing I realized about recording messages is that it helped me realize that even though there might not be obvious changes in my voice when I'm in trance, there may be like subtle changes in the pitch or the tone of my voice, or the cadence or rhythm or vocabulary may also change. Like a lot of times when I connect with spirits through trance, I use words that I never use in my everyday life. So, that's a really good indication that you're in trance. And it might also include how words are emphasized or the intonation of your voice. I definitely feel more sure about being in trance, when my voice changes, or when I'm with trance with spirits who speak languages that aren't English, or if they speak with an accent or sing. Like, a lot of spirits will come through me and sing, and they'll sing songs I don't even know. I mean, one time I even sang a French song, and French is not my forte. But I've just discovered that the most important thing is to trust the messages that you receive and share through trance. The most important thing is relaxation. If you're not relaxed, it's just not going to happen for you. That's what allows spirits to express themselves and share the messages that are most meaningful. Like, if you're only somewhat relaxed, you can still go into trance and you can still have messages come through, and they can use your vocal cords. But you'll find the more relaxed you are, that sort of like the more freedom there is for them to be expressive. So keep that in mind too. Each spirit's energy is different. I always tell people that spirits are like snowflakes. There's no two the same. And if you tune in, that will enable you to notice the differences. And if you connect with spirits often enough, you'll get, so either consciously or subconsciously, you'll recognize their energy. Like when Bashura connects with me now, I know instantly that it's him. And he doesn't have to show his orange energy or anything like that. I just know that that's who I'm channeling. The spirit's energy may be subtle or it might be obvious, and it's easier to notice spirits that are gregarious and with a great sense of humor or a booming laugh, whereas the others that are more serious or gentle or shy, they may be less obvious. But if a spirit's energy is subtle, being relaxed will enable you to become aware of them. And I always think that, you know how so many mediums think they can only connect with whoever shows up? Well, I've never had a loved one in spirit not show up. They always come. When I have a client ask me for somebody, or when I'm doing a group reading and someone in the audience asks for somebody, they always show up. And I think the difference is that I'm very aware of the fact that you can summon spirits, but I'm also aware of the fact that their energy, each spirit has such different energy, that just some of them are just less noticeable. And that's the same for yourself. If you're trying to, experience your loved ones just even being around you, you have to be calm and relaxed enough just to notice even the most subtle energy. And that way they'll be there and you'll notice them. But if you believe that you can only see, connect with whoever shows up, then you're going to miss out on a lot of them. After a while, the trance guides began to introduce themselves to clients during readings and during classes. And that started indicating to me that timing was right for me to help others learn trance. So for quite some time now, I've been providing classes and one-on-one trance training to help others connect through trance. And and typically, like in a one-on-one session, in 30 minutes, you can connect with at least a couple of spirits, so you can get some good practice from that. The style of connecting through trance has evolved over the years. Traditional methods involve deeper trances during which the medium doesn't interact with others. But Bashura encouraged me to learn to quickly go in and out of trance. When you're in trance, it's not possible to be aware of everything that you can experience outside of trance. So being able to go quickly in and out of trance enables me to be present when I'm not sharing messages through trance. And it also enables me to share visual images and sensory images that I otherwise wouldn't be aware of. So like, for example, a loved one in spirit, they might share an image that are meaningful during the periods when I come out of trance. And just the one that just comes off the top of my head right now was a loved one that showed this huge shell. And, when I relayed that to his daughter, I think it was his daughter, yeah, she said that that's what they had spread as ashes in when they went to the ocean. They put it in a shell, and, so it was very meaningful to her. And I would have missed that if I hadn't been able to go in and out of trance. So, I came out of trance, I got that message, I relayed it to her, and then I just went right back into letting him speak. And if I remember correctly, he talked about how much he enjoyed watching his own memorial service by the ocean. So sometimes when I connect with a spirit, and I look down before I start to, let them use my vocal cords to speak, I can see myself in a different body or clothing or with a different gender than my own. And I remember the first time I ever did trance mediumship readings at a party. The mom asked me to connect with her 3-year-old daughter. And when I looked down, I immediately saw myself in this little frilly, multi-layered dress, like a tutu or a princess dress or something like that. And it turned out that her daughter liked to dress like that all the time, and she just wore that same dress over and over again because she didn't want to take it off. And when the little girl used my vocal cords to speak, it just came out in this little chirpy 3-year-old voice. It was very adorable. When I connect with spirits through trance, I feel as though I have their personalities. And trance enables me to reveal those unique personalities and share their messages and provide reassurance that they remain present in their loved ones' lives. And I think it makes it much more meaningful. I do have to tell you, it took me a while to have enough confidence or guts to share my trance abilities with others. It was a gradual process. Like I said, I practice a lot at home. And to me, a really big hurdle was moving from connecting with spirit guides and collectives to connecting with loved ones in spirit. And I remember my spirit guides came through and they said, "What do you mean you're afraid to connect with loved ones in spirit? Who are we if we're not loved ones in spirit?" And they had a point. But anyway, they suggested that I ask my twin sister to give me some names of her husband's relatives that I hadn't met. And then I would connect with them through trance and record it and then share it with her husband and her family and see if it matched. And I connected with 4 or 5 of his relatives that had passed. That was very validating for me. It was astonishing, the neat details that came up, right down to describing one of his uncle's cars, an old-fashioned convertible. But anyway, yeah, so I did that, and then I started sharing my trance abilities with others, like close friends or clients who appeared to be open-minded, and I was fortunate that it was well received. So that gave me the confidence to move on to bigger groups. One of my clients told me that her favorite part of a previous reading was when I went into trance with one of her spirit guides. She said she appreciated the connection and the deeper sense of knowing that came from me being in trance. And she was impressed that their very specific personalities came out so strongly. And for her, that made it seem more real. So that helped encourage me. And when I connect through trance with loved ones and spirit, people are often amazed at how their loved ones' personalities come through. And so then I gradually began sharing trance with families and groups up to 6. And then I expanded to meeting with groups of more than 50, both in person and online. And I have to tell you, it makes absolutely no difference to me whether I'm connecting with trance with an individual, a family, or a group, whether it's in person, on the phone, on Zoom, or Facebook Messenger video chat. It makes absolutely no difference at all in terms of what kind of messages I receive. And you would think that it'd be really kind of distracting to have that large group on Zoom with, a whole page of people in front of you. It's not at all. Makes no difference to me whatsoever. The largest group I've shared messages from loved ones in spirit with is 96. But that was just around the time where I was just first learning trance, and I wasn't confident enough to share messages through trance with that group. And I'm really looking forward to sharing trance messages with larger groups. I actually thrive on it. It doesn't scare me any more than one person, like I really thrive on an audience. It's so rewarding to make that kind of difference for people in their lives. When I was preparing this podcast, I connected through trance with a spirit I'd never met before, who came solely for the purpose of sharing a message for this podcast. The following is a recording of the message that was shared.
We are here today to share messages about the importance of the work that you do to help others to discover their ability to also connect with others and share messages that are meaningful and transcending. Now is a time of great transformation. It is a time of togetherness, of time of being whole, of self-discovery, of finding out what counts and what does not. It's a time that is meaningful in terms of self-discovery and discovering how each of you fits with others in this role that we have of helping those on earth to become more spiritual and to raise their vibration so that those who have struggled for so long will discover that they too are capable of much more than they had imagined or dreamed about. Each of you has abilities that you may not be aware will make a phenomenal difference in your lives and the lives of others. It is a time of pulling together and helping each other. It is a time of growth and wonder. We hope that you all will take the time to discover your capabilities and how wholehearted this transformation can be in making a difference for yourself and the rest of the world. Thank you for listening.
I marvel at the wonder of connecting with spirits through trance. I'm excited to share information about trance in the hope that you too will be fascinated by the messages shared when individuals allow spirits to use their vocal cords to speak, which is why I started a podcast. Regardless of what level you are at in learning about connecting with spirits through trance, I hope the information we shared today was helpful. Thanks for listening. The next podcast will be available on Thursday, February 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. I would love for you to join me then. If you'd like to be notified about upcoming trance messages from Spirit Podcasts, please follow me. If you'd like to develop your ability to connect through trance with spirits, I offer trance classes and one-on-one trance training. A 30-minute trance training session is usually long enough for you to connect through trance with one or more spirits. You may visit my website at www.lindapynaker.com.